Hello and welcome to another jungle tutorial, and in this gameplay breakdown we are going to look at a new playstyle developing in the highest of MMRs, where the need for speed is so strong that phase rush is becoming a rather interesting trend. Obviously Graves is the best jungler in the game at the moment, especially after the Karthus nerfs, and heavily uses that Korean rune set. Trundle is also playing around with it if you can believe it, but growing in Korea and other regions' challenger arenas is full tank, phase rush, Hextech Flash, Boots of Swiftness, Sett. The ability to rectify one of Sett's biggest weaknesses in the jungle, map scaling, with Hex Flash is allowing challengers to set up unique ganks and specifically aid in winning lanes. And naturally we have a game here to show you the power of Sett Jungle with phase rush and how you can use it to 1v9 and maybe actually get yourself some wins for once. So as always, if you enjoy, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to comment below what other videos you might like to see. And now without hesitation, let's begin. So for Sett's early clears, you're not looking to do AoE camps, you go for the machete, refillable pot, and you're looking to make an impact on the map. And the nice thing about Sett is he can duel with many things. And with phase rush, you get to go zoomy zoom as soon as you start to fight anyone. Most importantly, he is against a Kindred, a very popular, powerful pick in the high elo Korean ladder, and as such, he really does need to show the enemy jungler who the daddy is. Of course, that is what Sett actually does. So he goes from red into blue into Gromp. Immediately now turn and look for a gank. A lot of the coaching I've been doing on Twitch, it shows you how people have this indecision, especially in this early phase. They do the 2 buffs into Gromp, but now wander around a little bit. We're not looking for this. The nice thing is his clear speed for these 3 camps is relatively good. That means as the Pantheon shoves his wave and then goes to ward, there's a Sett waiting for him. Left, right, reset your orders with your Q to get another left, right, EM to make sure they stay in place, and then use your near light speed to move around and chase them down. Now this is where the Sett makes a quite bold move. You note this point that Kindred hasn't shown yet. That's most likely they've done a full blue side, as you knew they started there. They've gone to the red and the Krugs. Obviously we saw that, Sett didn't, but when you walk into their jungle and you see the Raptors available, it should sort of click. Now the thing is, you want to wait for that 315 for the crab, because it's Kindred, you want to deny as many marks as possible. The Raptors being up means you have to use Smite in order to secure them because you have a machete. But what the Sett didn't factor in was, hey, maybe they warded after I went to the top side and ganked. As such, he's detected and he's forced to burn his flash. And while the immediate nature of a raw flash is huge, he does at least have the Hex Flash for other such plays. Not the end of the world, and will enable him a little bit more actually. Not for the W outplays and escaping bad situations, but in terms of using the map scaling. So while Kindred uses the pressure release to take top crab and conduct a gank on the top side, the Sett takes the bottom side crab and then heads down to the bottom lane. And observe closely as the power of Hex Flash is used for, well, surprise effect. Nothing came of it, but at least you saw what you could do with it. And of course you saw in the intro clips, and maybe I'll show another cutaway now, how Hex Flash can be used in that particular situation. It's more about the possibilities, because simply put, you're not going to be able to AFK farm and fight a Kindred on a battle of CS. But what that move does do is create lane pressure in the bottom lane, and that affects the next minute. Sett moves on up through the river, sprinting as fast as he can. And watch the high level nature of this particular gank. Most people would not go for the Sakali move whatsoever. Instead of using Q for an auto attack reset, uses it to close the gap, hits a max range E on the edge of the tower dive radius, is able to get some damage off with the left right. Syndra throws a ball on her face. He uses the W as a finisher if it was necessary, but also the shield helps absorb the tower shot. That is a very advanced gank that many junglers would not make. They do not have the CC, the kit, the speed, the lockdown, able to make that kind of play. And this is where I have an issue with junglers always holding mid lanes. The Kindred shows up, there's a huge wave, they do go way too aggressive onto the Sett, as such get caught out, damaged by everyone. Thresh made a good rotation, lands a death sentence hook of destiny, and all of a sudden Sett has 3 assists. Movement speed around the map, movement speed during ganks, movement speed during fights is an absolute. It helps you in so many situations, and with Sett's kit has a profound synergy. It's even why I take Boots of Swiftness and Relentless Hunter on Maokai, just so I can move faster, get my tankiness and my CC out, and let the rest of people do damage. There's a similar principle behind Sett, except of course you are a fighter and do a lot more base damage. He has max HP damage on his Q, he has max bonus damage on his ultimate. You've got the true damage and bonus damage from the W with the grit, so he can afford to go full tank, move very fast around the map, tank everything available, and then yell unlimited power as he presses W. So after his first tour on the map, back to base, Boots of Swiftness, and a talisman. Now we can actually do AoE camps. From this perspective, with this kind of champion, now you would look to actually go and gank again. But because his Syndra was base as well as his Thresh, there's no need to really force yourself into lanes, there's no ganks to be had. Now you can use your time to take a camp or two. The early Hex Flash bottom lane, you might have memed it, laughed at it, insulted it, said haha. But what it did do was create the prior for Thresh to go up and put a control ward on the Kindred, as you just saw. Thresh also came up for that gank. and now because of this, he can go ahead and invade the Kindred 2v1, thank them very much for the wolves, and begin to jog out because as you'll see, Sett pretty much jogs everywhere with this build. Maybe even semi-sprints, 75% maximum speed. But challenger laners and junglers won't tolerate this kind of disrespect that you are throwing down, and as such you're going to have a little skirmish over this invade. As you can see, the Thresh went down pretty quickly, but Sett throws out an absolutely monstrous E, chains them together using the phase rush to move around the fight very quickly. Yes, Syndra has to flash. He goes in and out using that movement speed and max range right hook to make sure you take out another target. Misfortune has rotated, but don't greed more than you can handle. Akali is still Akali, but she manages to escape. You can sit in the Raptor Pit, use the Hex Flash for celebration, and then secure yourself another crab. What a strong hulking jungler that can handle himself in that situation, dish out damage, survive, move quickly. Yeah, pretty good. However, don't bite off more than you can chew. Yes, you need a lot of protein to sustain this particular build. However, you know, the crab and that fight and everything, that's good. Go back to your jungle, take red, take Krugs, get level 6, then maybe lane gank on the bottom side. But he goes bottom lane, he gets Lantern out, and I still for the life of me don't know what the hell Aphelios does or why this thing is allowed from blind distance. But Sett falls in a noble sacrifice because that's what heroes do. Okay, now it's time to turn up the 1v9. Respawn, take the red buff. No Kindred would have gone from blue up to the top side given the last skirmish where they showed up. That means a solo dragon is on the cards. Go to the mid lane, have Pantheon ult. Nothing happens, but it's a good scare tactic. Totally a great use of the Pantheon ultimate. Move on up into the jungle. Now, obviously, you're going to meet the Kindred. Watch the body language here. Oh no, a Kindred, I'm so afraid. I'm gonna run away. Monty Python memes. You pause when you're out of vision to make sure the Kindred thinks that you run away, and then you turn in with the full force of your team and your fists, and Kindred falls, and then Blitzcrank is caught out, and basically a lot of chains and a lot of fisting. You take the Pantheon and show him how to really fly in the sky, and then you use your Q for that powerful left hook to secure another kill. All of a sudden, 4, 1, and 5, total control of the map with minimal farm focus, yet still has more CS than the Kindred. Translate that into a beautiful Rift Herald, and now give your blue to the mid laner. Now in a normal server, in normal ranked games, you just take your own blue. Korean mid laners that are challengers, sure they can use it. The silver mid lane in your game, he doesn't need it. So you could take your blue, Grump, and Wolves and then go back to base. However, that would put you 2 camps in time behind your next action. And remember, you're trying to go fast. We're trying to have as much time on the map as possible and not waste a single second. So our Sett goes back to base after donating the blue so generously, finishes that Cinder Hulk, and now heads on down to the bottom side. And this is where the timing is going to be so important. The reason you just give the blue and go back to base, and you don't do the Grump on the Wolves, is purely because that action on the top side, the fact that the Herald's gone, is going to force it to be a lopsided focus on the bottom area now, purely because the dragon will be the next objective. Naturally, you can see the enemy bottom lane are not on the map, which means you can spend some time taking the Krugs, then move on up in shadow, wait for the bottom lane to show, wait for your bottom lane to get into position. If you know you saw the red team's bottom lane shoving your team on a tower, you don't stop for Krugs, you go straight into the gank. But the Sett's timing couldn't have been more perfect. Pantheon TPs, Silas's mid lane, and then React TPs, and the Kindred in this case is a bit lost, doesn't really know where to go, is on the top side. Sett's presence there changes the nature of the fight. Now you can say, well, blue team is ahead, they probably win it anyway. Maybe, but what if you did this in a game that's more equal? What if your bottom lane is the one that's behind? What if this is a game-winning play by the Pantheon? Remember, your movement speed that you're using? Yeah, it's for ganking, not to farm. And as always with such a game, it's good to have a heat check, right? I always say you're allowed to make that one mistake if you're fed, that one mistake to push the limits. The Sett has his moment here. Goes to the mid lane, Kali's still level 9, that's a tough matchup, but sees the Kindred, uses Phase Rush Smite, chase them down. Except, oh right, the whole enemy team's here. Now he doesn't actually get a kill if the Kindred uses their brain and simply just walks away. But the Kindred walks into the bush, Sett presses a blind W, nicely done, and secures himself a 6th kill while he runs around in a circle, cheering at his own glory. After this, remember the focus of carrying is to actually use those objectives. Go mid lane, scare the Akali senseless, I mean that's a lot of damage, use the Herald to get the plates and make sure it's finished before 14 minutes, and now one could question the nature of falling down to do your red side. I think it's good to actually have a good sequence every now and then, especially for a ganking jungler. You don't ignore your camps entirely, you sequence them during down moments, but it looks like they might have had prior on that dragon. I think the bottom lane was in a fight getting caught out, had low HP, and as such the Pantheon ulting basically means you lose a prior, you won't win the fight over the dragon, might as well maximize the time and take his red side. After this, he can complete his core component, DEADMANS plate. Now you are very fast. Now at this point, the game becomes a little bit of a high elo fiesta. He does secure the Rift Herald, very nice. There are a few fights that go on in the mid lane, sort of fighting over that contested territory, especially seeing as the red team is a scaling team comp. They do have the Kindred, they do have the Akali, they do have the Aphelios. They can still do equal damage in the late game. As long as they have those outer towers in place, as long as they're holding off decently well, they can still always mount a comeback. So as such, if we fast forward after the fight, Sett places the Rift Herald mid lane. This will force someone to have to deal with it. Him and his bottom lane can then move up to the top side whenever you have a map that's distorted, whenever the enemy team has a fed side laner, but the rest of the team are not in position. That's when you can afford to go send 3 people to actually go deal with it. They run into the Kindred who was actually trapping, but then in the most hilarious fashion just says yeah, no, and runs the other direction as fast as they can. And now chasing down Akali is one of the most frustrating things in the game. He would have actually secured the kill with his W had it hit, doesn't, but because of phase rush, because of DEADMANS, because of swiftness, because of the blue smite, he's actually able to take her out. That's something worth noting because most champions in this situation would just have to back off. That's the pressure relief you needed. Now you can go mid lane, send Aphelios back to the moon where he belongs, where he's not in League of Legends, if we don't have to see it again. Go into the jungle, take their camps, lay deep vision, shove the waves, and essentially prime your team to go and secure that Baron. However, that isn't what happens because while trying to control the enemy's jungle and moving around the map, they actually misposition in the most tragic way. This causes the enemy team to sneak away a Baron, but really it's of no consequence. And from here, because the red team does actually have scaling, the blue team has to be very cautious with how they close out. You will see highlights of the final few moments of the game. They're able to crack open the base and they kind of have an almost throw moment, but in the end, a close fight transpires and they're able to win it and then turn to shove for the Nexus. Obviously, I spoke ahead so you can watch that action. I just wanted to note that the stickiness of phase rush, the utility it can provide along with base movement speed items such as swiftness and DEADMANS plates allows map navigation for champions that don't have map scaling to really get around, to really focus on ganking objectives and still throw in camps in between. When you can build full tank like this and have that kind of mobility, it reminds me of the days of full tank Echo Jungle. Not the Iceborne Sunfire days, mind you, but the days when you built full tank, you did a lot of base damage, but you had insane slipperiness. Now for lower and mid MMRs, maybe even in Diamond, you might find more utility out of simply having a precision tree secondary or even throwing in that relentless hunter. Now obviously I'm just positing possibilities here, I'm not saying these are necessarily good choices, I'm just saying you don't have to be forced into Hex Flash if you do not find the utility as necessary given the movement speed basis of this build. Otherwise, there you have it. If you are looking to scale a bit more, to have a bit more fun than having to spam a lease when you want to permagank, but also really be a meat shield for your team's terrible positioning, then this kind of champion with this rune set can help you out. Make sure you're looking for those ganks early, you know which lanes are best for that, ensure you are cleaning up camps between, use your dueling power to win those skirmishes in the rivers, force fights that you can actually win, ult people to tilt them, and hopefully you should be grabbing some wins by moving very fast. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something. Please do like, share, and comment if you did. We always like to reach around 1500. It lets me feel as pretty as Sett. Please don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed the content and are looking forward to more. And as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.